There's this gag gift company called Established Titles who has been the source of a lot of heat over the course of the past couple of weeks, and today we're going to talk about why. Established Titles is a relatively new business, but they have been getting a ton of publicity lately because they have paid dozens of top YouTube influencers to promote their product. So even though Established Titles hasn't been in business all that long, they've definitely already made a big name for themselves. We are talking about a company that was founded about 2 years ago, and by my estimation has already done over $100 million in revenue, which we'll break down a little later in this video. And trust me, when you find out exactly what it is that these guys are selling, that number becomes infinitely more impressive. Some people out there are alleging that Established Titles is a huge scam who has defrauded hundreds of thousands of people, and others are defending Established Titles, saying that the company hasn't really done anything wrong. Today, let's dive into the details together and decide for ourselves whether or not these guys are legit. Assuming a lot of you guys haven't heard of Established Titles before, let's first establish what this company does according to their website. So these guys purchased a couple hundred acres in Scotland, and they have pledged to protect that land that they bought, keeping it just as natural land forever. And their entire business model is around selling you a tiny sliver of that land that they bought at the price of $50 for 1 square foot. And then with your purchase, you will get this PDF that says you are officially the title owner of that little piece of land. By the way, just for a visual, we can use this Rolling Stones album as a frame of reference. This represents about 1 square foot of space, so not a whole lot of land that they're selling, definitely a novelty. On top of you getting a sliver of land with your purchase, since there's an old tradition in Scotland that landowners are called lairds, this means that by owning this new plot of land you just bought for 50 bucks, you can now call yourself a lord or a lady. And then the last piece of their business model says that as icing on the cake, with your $50 purchase, the company will also plant a tree on your behalf. You're basically paying $50 for a gag gift, and as a part of that purchase, you're getting the warm and fuzzy feeling that you're preserving land in Scotland and you're planting a tree while you're at it. This is actually a pretty awesome and interesting business model, but the claims on the internet is that everything that Established Titles is claiming that they're selling us is a total scam. Before we get into the accusations, let's establish one thing for sure, and that is that if you go to establishedtitles.com and you pay $50 for the Lordship Title Pack, you are literally just paying $50 for a PDF because it'll cost you an additional $100 to have your title holder document actually printed and framed. Okay, so charging 50 bucks for a PDF is a pretty wild business model, and some might call that criminal in and of itself. But next, let's get into the accusations that are being thrown at this company and pick them apart. So there are 3 main things that are being questioned about their business model. First is whether or not you actually end up owning any land when you buy this PDF. Second is whether or not you can actually call yourself a lord or a lady when you buy this PDF. And then last is whether or not trees are actually planted after you buy this PDF. Now, regarding issue number 1 as to whether or not you actually end up owning any land, I will say that Established Title as a company does in fact own land around Scotland. It amounts to hundreds of acres in total, and in the land ownership section of their website, they share the exact plots of land that they own with exact locations shown via Google Maps. When you buy their plot of land, you're actually given a plot number on your certificate, which you can plug into the Where's My Plot page. This is where Established Titles can tell you exactly where your plot of land is located. And then to take it a step further, visitations to that plot that you bought are actually encouraged and welcomed by the company because the land is kept open to public access all the time under a Scotland custom called freedom to roam. So we know that Established Titles actually owns a bunch of land in Scotland, and your certificate comes with a plot number that's linked to a plot that you can actually visit. But what's the catch? Well, what these guys are selling you is actually called a souvenir plot of land, which according to Established Title's own website is a plot that's too small to be registered with the Scottish Land Registry. And there's a lot of language online about what a souvenir plot of land means in Scotland, but it's defined as a plot of land which is of inconsiderable size and no practical utility. And since these plots cannot be registered in the land register, it's impossible for buyers of souvenir plots to become real owners. So not to get too wound up into the weeds here, but what this is saying is that even though established titles is alluding to you actually getting a little 1x1 square foot of land in Scotland when you buy this $50 PDF, it's not actually legally possible to transfer such a small plot of land over to somebody else under Scots law. Instead, what's happening is you're really just taking established title's word for it that when you buy this certificate that you are buying into a much larger plot of land with a bunch of other people that's located somewhere in Scotland, and then you're trusting that established title as the true owner of all that land will never develop it in your lifetime. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to mark number 1 off as a scam because established titles has been advertising that they're going to sell you an actual plot of land, which is literally impossible. Now moving on to concern number 2 on whether or not you can call yourself a lord or lady when you own a piece of land in Scotland. This one is easy, guys. The short answer is no. Buying this certificate does not make you an official lord or lady. First of all, we already established that by buying one of these certificates, you are not buying an actual 1x1 plot of land in Scotland. But as icing on the cake, even if you did own a 1x1 square foot plot of land out there, most sources argue that this is not enough land to warrant earning the title of lord or lady by Scottish traditions. What's funny is that in Scotland, anybody can legally call themselves whatever they want, including laird, lord, or lady under common law, as long as you do not use it to obtain money by deception. So really, all established title is doing is making you aware of the fact that you're allowed to call yourself a lord or lady because anybody can do that. You do not need to buy this PDF in order to call yourself one, so we're going to call number 2 a scam as well. The last claim that established titles makes is that they are going to plant a tree with the purchase of every one of these $50 PDFs, and the details behind this claim are the most fascinating part of this story. So they say on their website that established titles donates to a company called One Tree Planted and then another company called Trees for the Future to help with the tree planting efforts. And then also on their website, they say they are committed to planting a tree for every order. So technically, established titles isn't physically planting trees. They're instead donating money to a charity who plants trees. Whatever though, that's just a technicality. Trees are being planted, which is the most important part in my opinion. We know that trees are being planted based on confirmation on their partners' websites, plus some investigative research done by other YouTubers verifying that established titles is in fact donating money to these foundations who plant trees. But here is where the story gets crazy, guys. If you go to their partners page, One Tree Planted, you can see that you only need to donate $1 in order to get a tree planted. And even better, if you go to Trees for the Future, it only costs 25 cents to plant a tree with them. Now back to established titles website. Remember, they are committing to planting a tree for every order, not several trees, not 50 trees, a tree. So it doesn't take a mathematician to figure this one out. These guys are charging consumers $50 for a PDF that is emailed to them after purchase. With that PDF, the customer is getting a promise that they now own a piece of land in Scotland. The customer is also being informed that they now can call themselves a lord or a lady. A maximum of $1 per order is being donated to one of these charities to plant a tree, and then established titles pockets the remaining $49 for every order. This has got to be the highest margin business that I've ever heard of. I think if a business like this was pitched on Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary would have a stroke right there on the set. But the unbelievable finale here is that these guys, per their own website, have contributed to the planting of over 2 million trees in Scotland and all around the world, which means that if they've planted 1 tree per order and they've planted 2 million trees, that means they've sold 2 million of these $50 PDFs. $50 times 2 million says that established titles has done $100 million in revenue after just 2 years in business. To be honest, I find it hard to believe that 2 million people would buy this digital certificate gag gift, but there are 8 billion people on the planet, so I guess anything's possible. At the end of the day, I actually think that established titles has a decent business model and certainly one that is extremely profitable. And they're not a horrible business. I mean, they are actually preserving land in Scotland. They are actually contributing to a company who is planting trees, and they're providing a pretty fun gag gift that tons of people are really enjoying. You can just look at their reviews or their tags on Instagram to see how much people love this product. But with that being said, where these guys went wrong is the way that they're marketing their product and the scripts that they gave to their influencers to sell. The FAQ section of the Established Titles website is pretty clear about how all this works, and there is more clarifying detail in the About Us and Terms and Conditions sections of their website as well. There's claims out there that their website was recently modified as a result of all these claims, but I went back and I looked at a website version from a few months ago and compared it to today's. And yes, Established Titles did recently make some subtle tweaks to their website to clarify what they're offering here, but in reality, they only changed a couple of sentences across the entire page. I reached out to Established Titles through their website to clear the air here and help them a bit with this PR mess that they're in right now, but unfortunately, I never heard back. You guys know me by now. I never like to take a bully approach, and I always like to give people and companies the benefit of the doubt when I can. I personally don't think that Established Titles is some big criminal operation, but they have been misleading their customers through some misleading advertising. I'll see you next time.